Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our weekly energy update for energetically sensitives, empaths, and anybody who feels like they're awakening. My name is Jona Bryndis. I'm your weekly energy coach, energy healer, here airing from transCODES in Colorado, USA. And I hope you guys are having a good second week or dealing with it as good as you can. We're going to be talking a lot about some of the things that are coming in here collectively and how collective energies are affecting us this week for January 12th till January 18th. Today is Thursday the 11th, and let's follow me here into the review first, like what was it like last week, what are the energies that are currently coming in. Then we're going to go into the forecast, so like what I'm seeing coming in for the next week. And then we're going to reflect the whole thing onto the crypto world, the crypto market. As you know, I like using practical examples, and as of right now, this whole sort of theme here for our entire world, for our entire collective, is change, is transition, is new paradigm. And so I've picked the crypto market to make practical examples and to show where these collective transitions or where these changes are taking place. All right, so before we get started, a very quick sound check here. Can you guys hear me? Am I even live? Is anybody there? So at this point, I cannot really see anybody. There's a delay here with YouTube, as most of you know. Yes, okay, all right, you can hear me, wonderful. And I love getting feedback from you, like where you're from. And as you know, the reason why I'm doing this live is because you have the opportunity here to ask questions or to comment at any time. Just do me the favor and don't create too complicated sentence structure, because I have to talk into the camera, I have to think about what I'm going to say, I have to connect with my heart to be congruent, and I have to read what you're writing and then come up with a coherent answer. So just on a side note here. Hey, London. Ha! Wonderful. I love this time of the day. But as some of you who follow me here on YouTube Weekly know, there's an issue right now with the light. So as soon as I set up everything for recording, the light comes in. So I've blocked this off today, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to prohibit the light from coming in. Hey, Australia. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for coming here and for paying attention to this. You know that these weekly energy updates, they can get very complex. They usually take anywhere from like 40 minutes to over an hour. And a part of the reason for that is that we're talking about energies, we're talking about subjective experiences, all right, which is also why I like the commentary, because your guys' comments really help me to tune into like how you've subjectively experienced that. But of course, this is only here a small outlet of the daily work that I do. Everything that I present here in these weekly energy updates for empaths is really just there to give you sort of a kind of like the gist of it, okay, of all the energy sessions and personal energy coaching sessions that I do here. So in these personal sessions, or a lot of them are also group sessions, we exchange, we talk, and I help to contextualize this, to translate this into your personal life and what you can do. So here's, of course, only sort of what comes in, for us collectively. All right, so let's get started. So last week, I said, ready or not, and talked a little bit about stages of adaptation and how adaptability really is one of the main skills, that can help us navigate through a lot of the uncertainty that is coming in. And this week was on almost green, so we had a little bit of a reprieve here. We could relax just a little bit, but only to find out that maybe some of the things that we have been come up as New Year's resolutions, or that we have been reevaluating, and reevaluating was a big part of these last 3-4 weeks. That we may have been in there for a little bit of an illusion, or a little bit of a hype, or even unrealistic expectations. So what happened is, and this is something that's been going on for 2 weeks. A lot of people are complaining about these respiratory issues, these cold/flus that they can't get rid of, which is of course located here, in this third and fourth chakra area. And I just like right before we started, I came up with a good idea, and I'm going to share this with you. You know how I like to refer to our energy centers, and even those of you who are not 100% familiar with this, doesn't matter. I put up like a little chart here, so instead of trying to show my own body parts, I'm just going to refer to that. That helps a little bit. So respiratory issues, they're located in this third, fourth chakra area. Okay, this is here the yellow and the green, and the upper respiratory stuff overlaps here with our fifth chakra, with our throat chakra. So these are things that we have been talking about in the last couple of weeks. Okay, we've talked about self-expression and how to bring this into congruence with, what we want. And the third chakra is typically associated with willpower, with some good things, like our life force and our ability to really is actually the part in us that creates determination. All right, but the issues are when these chakras want to move together, when these energies want to move together, and this is also then promoted through outer energies. Okay, so I'm reflecting on collective energies coming in, which means these are waves of energies that carry a certain characteristic, like a weather condition, and they support certain processes. So whenever such a wave comes in, we are being held to work through specific issues. And in these last a couple of weeks, it had a lot to do with our here. I was pointing at the throat, the fifth chakra, throat chakra, expression, and truth, in conjunction with, some of our core values. We talked about that, and like how this even sort of matches up with our heart, with what we truly want. And when we get into this place where we feel under a little bit of distress, or like things are not matching up, right? Then that's usually when our ego coping mechanisms set in. The coping mechanisms are the things that our ego has developed over, decades, in most of our cases, to handle something, to get by, to like kind of get out of the stressful situation. And we had a few extra stressors with the holidays and so forth. So all that triggered, almost like a relapse in us, like relapsing into our old patterns. And so this past week was good for reflection, but if you were dealing with a lot of respiratory stuff, this is an indication for me as an energy healer that there is parts of this congruence that are not really, that you're not fully able to, where you're not fully able to see truth, or where you can't maybe accept reality. And what that does to our energy system is that it creates this barrier between the third and the hang on. There you go. the third and the fourth chakra here, which means then the energy is not really flowing well, and that can create a susceptibility to like all these germs that are around in the winter time anyway. Now, adding to this was an over, or still is, an over weakening of our immune system. This has started like by the beginning of December, and this has nothing to do with the season. This is something that I've observed here working with energetically sensitives and empaths. Has to do with 6 and 7 chakra overlay. That's coming in from the collective. Those are control. It's part of the control matrix. It activates certain parts in our system that are conditioned to react in a certain way. And for most of us, this conditioning has to do with this fatigue, this like over stimulated stress, reduces our immune system, and it basically sort of steers us into our fight, flight, or freeze, in our sort of very uncontrollable and irrational, but also reactive autonomous nervous system reaction. Yes, and hey, Germany, good to see you guys. I get you guys so rarely ever because we usually do these live recordings in the afternoon, so then it's like in the middle of the night for you. So I'm really glad we got London and Germany here, because Europe is usually watching the recordings. So anyway, so this fatigue, I've talked about adrenal fatigue in the past. What that does is it triggers our autonomous nervous system into these very, you could almost call them animalistic, coping mechanisms. So just for terminology's sake, coping is not the same as dealing. All right, coping is a way how our ego more or less figured out how it can get by, how it can survive. Okay, so whenever our animalistic part is triggered, or the animalistic part of our energy system, which is very dense, very physical, then we are not really acting according to our higher values, right? I mean, those are the things that make us do or say things that we regret later, that we feel are very unspiritual, anything in that direction, where we run into like an inner schism with us. And this can lead, of course, to energetic schisms. This can lead to all kinds of fragmentation in a person. We talked about that last week. But on a, on a mental level, it can lead to this mental looping, this over or excessive worrying. Emotionally, it can lead to depression and, like a really heavy sort of sad type of feeling. And physically, it can lead to a compromised immune system. And then depending on the other factors, it can lead to specific diseases that we observe here collectively, like meaning that that's a higher chance to end up with this specific kind of ailment or chronic conditions flaring up. So the respiratory system was very challenged here and still is. And if any of this resonates with you, then really the message that I want to get across to you is that if you've been dealing with this for a while, then what this really means is that you need to go into congruence. You really need to go and checking, first of all, am I resisting reality? And that means, like, is there a part that I do not want to see? Or are there parts that I can't see? Okay, so this is something that I cannot answer for you. This is what energy coaching is for, like to work through these practical things in your life and explore your blind spots and then learn how to better work with this. But anyway, so these respiratory things are usually when there are major things in our life where we're not getting something that we need. So this is the key word, unmet needs, all right? And instead of working on getting those needs into a place where, hey, Canada, where, where the conditions are better, or where the relationships are better, or, simply where we allocate our resources better so that our needs can be met, we go into this grieving process and we go into this resistance and very often also victimhood, which then, promotes the whole cycle, which is not really fully being accountable or taking responsibility for the circumstances in our lives. And so we end up in these repetitive patterns. And a lot of what I have been talking about here in the last weeks was about patterns, and that's because this is where we're at, guys. And literally, I have. I can sit here every week and tell you guys that it's about, working through, your hidden stuff, working through. Part of that is shadow. It's not all shadow. Hidden stuff can also be the stuff that we can't see, like the blind spots. Some of the incongruencies, some of the things in our life that don't match up. All right. And then, of course, what kind of patterns, have been put into place, just to get by. And this often also affects our relationships, it affects our financials, our jobs, and the overall sort of impotences or the overall struggle that we perceive on life. And I can say this every day, and I feel like a broken record, but it really comes down to that. All right, so this is important to understand that this year, and I said this on many occasions, if you haven't watched the 2008 Energies video, watch that one. I'm currently working on a summary of 2008 energies that we've channeled together here in our self-healing community at transCODES, with some additional energy tips and so forth that will come out probably in the next couple of days. But the whole point here is that this year is going to more or less force us to do this, because we will get stuck in our patterns and we'll have these physical ailments, these fears, these phases of depression, the looping, where we're not really moving forward, where we're just getting caught in our mental stuff or even fantasies, in our illusions, and where we can't even move forward in a spiritual sense because, things are not matching up. We don't really know what our true self is. And like I said earlier, when I talk about these kind of energies coming in from the outside, it means they support that particular healing process, which is becoming congruent, becoming real, connecting within and really going into this place of knowing what we are. And you may notice that I say knowing what we are, and I've talked about this last week. This is a little sort of neurolinguistic trick, because if you ask who I am, who am I, then the answers will immediately go into sort of projections of somebody that you associate with, whom you like to be, or who you think you need to be. And so that's a bit of a trap here. You got to watch yourself. When you ask yourself, what am I? Then the answer can be a lot more true. I'll make an example here, but I do want to greet Ireland to our conversation, and Canada. Woohoo, nice. This is really cool. And Australia. So we've got a network going here. We've got a grid going around the planet. So that's awesome. Yeah, so it's all about becoming real, okay? Because anything that is not real cannot really adapt. You can transpose this over to politics, social stuff, cultural stuff, environmental stuff, economic energies or fields. It doesn't matter. Anything that is not congruent is basically intrinsically imbalanced or disharmonic energetically, and is therefore not capable of adapting, nor capable of even potentially holding higher vibratory places. And going into a higher vibratory place ultimately is the goal for all of us, even if we don't call it that way. Yes, Tracy, I'll get to your comment here in a sec, because this is really important. I've singled this out here on my on my 2 pages full of notes for this week's. But where was I before that? Talking about, doesn't matter. Let me answer your question. Maybe I can get this back then. So Tracy's reporting, yes, looping and fantasy this week was a big one, and it allowed her to be the observer and break out of it. This is fantastic, Tracy. A lot of people won't see it that way. They will see it like, and this is actually what happened. And there's a big danger here for the next week if we don't really go into like really looking at what these things are and like how to break through them. Is that grieving that people have. And Tracy, I happen to know you one of the people here that have been working with transCODES for a long time, and I think you can relate to what I just said, because this if you don't break out of your old patterns, then it's almost from an outside standpoint, right, from this observer, it's completely unrealistic to expect different results. Right? But then there's this part in us that resists that. And so we constantly go into this like low, into this deep depression or grief over why this isn't working. Okay. The answer is always because we keep on doing the same thing. All right. And so if we want to become, and now I've got the bridge back to what I was talking about earlier, to become more adaptable and to be able to better deal with things as they arise, and to go into these higher vibratory places that align us to our true goals, right, to our higher vibratory goals. And I'm saying this like but basically peace, love, and harmony, abundance, abundant health, abundant wealth, abundant love in our lives, right? These are just sort of the class of goals, higher vibratory goals that we're striving for. But if we keep getting stuck in our lower vibratory patterns, then quite frankly, there's very little hope for us. And this schism in us, where our energy splits, where it fragments into that part of us that follows the ego illusion, and that other part that kind of knows it's not true. That's then, what leads to this exhaustion, to, constantly feeling like life is a struggle, and this is constant, sort of, just trying to avoid getting into that exhaustion. Because in the exhaustion, I want to repeat this here one more time, is also that's where our unmet needs are, right? They're linked to that. And so, we won't ever be able to evolve out of this or to transcend that without literally going into active self-healing. This is what we call this here. So active self-healing, is going into, well, first of all, building reference feelings and allowing ourselves to feel so that we can even know what needs to be healed, but then also to build this lexicon where we allow ourselves to consciously experience new reference feelings for, what does it even feel like when I'm in fear, when I'm in guilt, when I'm in anger, and so forth. And then to learn how to transcend these things bit by bit, baby steps. And the same then for our higher vibratory states. Many of us can't even imagine a life, say, with abundant health because we've always had physical issues, or in abundant wealth because we never really had a lot of money. So we need to develop reference feelings for that, so that we can even know if we arrive there or not. And see, this is the problem. It's also the problem with the light coming in. So this is the problem with energetically sensitives, who've never really, first of all, learned how to deal with the energetic sensitivity, but also kind of accepted that this is needed. Okay, so it's not a curse that you have that energetic sensitivity and that you constantly feel physically tormented, by other people's energies and so forth. It's a gift, but you have to learn how to use that right. And for that, this whole discernment training is needed. Okay, you need to come up with your own lexicon, so that you can respond to things such as fear, for instance, which got triggered big time last week. On like Sunday night. Like a huge wave of fear and uncertainty hit us, especially those of us energetically sensitive, through, nightmares, through massive, almost like sort of attack feelings on your etheric, random, like really violent, really weird type of visions coming in when you close your eyes. And that's all part of that sort of underlying current that's been going on since the beginning of December. And that's our 6th and 7th chakra up there, that is trying to open up. It's trying to open up and merge with, some of our core aspects, which are the ones here located in our 1st and 2nd chakra. And that will continue to be the theme really for next week. And I can't believe I'm dealing with this light issue again. So I just have to move again. Continue next week, and some of the ways I'll address here are to deal with this are to go into this self-reflective congruence check. And illusions and fantasies have a lot to do with this, because this will be the tendency in which we are all going to be pulled. And that's where our resistance is, that's where our grief is, and that's why we have so many issues with with this respiratory, but also some people with their mobility apparatus, which means like their legs, their knees, their feet. So last week I recommended, you take a couple of foot baths. That always helps to ground, but it also helps to clear your energy a little bit and soothe this. It soothes your, sort of the energies here in your lower, all the red stuff, all these red areas here. This is all belongs all to your 1st chakra, and 1st chakra is always core stuff and karmic stuff and patterns, and usually the hidden stuff, the stuff that we cannot see or that we do not want to see. Yes, and the weird dreams, Susan, that's going to continue next week. Most of you right here, because I recognize your names. You guys are, very energetically sensitive, and you pick up on these things probably a week prior, until so the majority of people will pick up on that. So what we're going to see here for the next week, or what I'm expecting, is, once more kids having a hard time sleeping. A lot of people going back into like sort of addictive cycles, relapses and so forth, because especially as energetically sensitive, if you, don't really know how to discern energies, like whether those are energies coming in from the outside or whether those are yours, then it can really drive you into this very low place. And for kids, they just don't really know how to deal with this period. If their parents aren't trained, then they try to suppress it, and that suppression then leads to insomnia or, being haunted by nightmares. Awesome. More people from Ireland. Wonderful. Yes. And so before I get into the, what I recommend for next week, let me make an adjustment here real quick. I can't go any further over there, so I'm going to have to hide over here. And then just wait till the sun. It's not going to go away until the very end of the session. That's what happened these past couple of recordings. So just bear with me here. That's part of my my challenge is, of course, I have a large enough office and all that to be able to do a professional setup for those recordings. But then again, I don't want to, because there's an authenticity in almost like demonstrating, how to deal with adverse conditions. And so I don't know about you. I mean, you can let me know if this is really disturbing you, but I really want you to focus on the energy of what I say and not so much the outer stuff. And yes, South Africa, even better. Hi there. Cool you coming. All right, so basically what this next week is all going to be about is this congruence check. So the energy report for this week is called Congruence Check, and overcoming fear and illusion, because there's a lot of FUD right now. So you can see this, at least here in the United States, a lot of news messages that sort of attack a lot of our core stuff, about health insurance, about also the financial system, not even counting sort of the crypto world into this, but, just like a lot of changes, a lot of our core values are being challenged right now. That creates a lot of fear. And as I tried to explain earlier, the more distress we have, or the more fear we have, the more we buy into fear, the more our system goes into this this animalistic part of our of our options, so to speak. It goes into this black and white, and it really restricts us. So then we can't see any solution, and that then triggers even more fear. So we're buying into the fear, and we're buying into the story that comes with the fear, sometimes also the justifications that come with that. And that's our biggest challenge here for the next week, is to really catch yourself going into your same old patterns. And here in transCODES and the self-healing community, we've created a whole entire 1-year program around this, going through these different layers of your ego. We call this, your story, your ego story, and it's part of our false self. So as soon as we go into coping, we're falling for our false self again, and we're distancing ourselves from our true self. So we're doing the opposite of what our goal setting is, and guess what? That's called an incongruence. That's how these inner schisms and struggle and inner conflicts and all that, that's how they occur. That's when our energy is not, it's not matching up. And when when we have, which most of us have, like a really strong critical inner voice, lots of judgment about, ourselves and so forth, then where this is usually going is into this like really irrational type of, defending, justifying, and fanatism, sometimes even, and that's where, then the clashes on the outside, the conflicts on the outside occur. So that's how that replicates, from our energy through our beliefs, our attitudes towards things, into our emotions, and then ultimately sort of into our physical and into our interaction with other people. So this week, these things will be the challenges, to be really congruent and to find, these long-lived coping patterns, and to work with them. So I'll get to this here in a sec, how to work with a pattern that you discover. But where this all wants to go, in other words, what collective energies will support is, getting to that place of really touching down with what you are. What do you stand for? What is the essence of you? And then you match that up with your New Year's resolutions. You match that up with your plans and with your decisions. You don't have to have the fixes yet. This is one of the things that I notice with a lot of people that are able to detect some of these core patterns in them, that they get tangled up in seeing this huge sort of just hunk of problems in front of them, or discovering all these incongruences or these, inner darknesses sometimes, and not knowing how to really work yourself out of that because it's just too big. And whenever you go into black and white, whenever you go into this place like, oh my God, I've lived a life an illusion, I've been kidding myself, blah, 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 blah. You go, that critical inner voice gets you in that place of judgment again, and you judge yourself for that, and your energy goes lower and lower again, all the way to like complete doubt and self-worth issues. So self-worth is something you really need to watch out for the next week, because if you go, and I can tell you, I can make an example for you what that sounds like within yourself, but if your energy goes all the way to like, fuck, why am I even doing this? Nobody ever appreciates me. This is, I'm not getting out what I'm putting in, and look at me, all I've ever wanted was, to serve, or to be of service, or to provide something for others, and look what I'm getting back. So that kind of negative self-talk, right, will lead you into, I'm not worth anything. And that's a first chakra issue. So next week, watch out for your first chakra and your second chakra. This has already started. How do you know that you're in sort of like a first, second chakra combobulation, disharmony, or whatever you want to call it, that you ran into a block there? A lot of people will feel depression. A lot of people will have this issue with their lower digestive system, extended belly, bloated belly, leaky gut. Also the chronic versions of that, with candida issues and gallbladder issues, okay, that can, cause some of that. Will show up this next week, most likely. And so what you can do about this energetically is that you go into that, first of all, you go, this should be your core question all week is, which of my needs are not met? Because those are, these unmet needs are the ones that trigger you into your coping. So don't think too much about why me, why now, why, or the details of the patterns. Think more of like, what am I not getting right now? What is my unmet need? And that can be like we always look at the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual and energetic point of view here, these parts of our energy system. And so in the physical, my energy tip is, go back to the basics, okay? So fear can be triggered through dehydration, so water. Fear can be triggered through lack of exercise. Move. I'm not saying like big, but get your body to move. Do not stick on the couch when you go low. Make yourself move, even if it's just, mopping the floor like I do, or, if you have a bike, or if you have a pet, if you have a dog, that's always really good because it forces you to go outside. So move your body, allow these energies to flow along with the air, like with the aerobic stuff, that can flow better through your system, and of course your blood as well. And watch your diet. Okay, so for the next week, I would recommend you guys to go a little lighter on foods, especially on fats and proteins. Those of you who are familiar with the deeper nutritional aspects know this. You have to help your system to be able to deal with stuff, and sometimes that requires us to go, into the lighter foods, so that it's easier for our system to get through this. Those of you who are not entirely sure, go to my blog on transcodes.com and put the keyword high vibrational living, and there's a whole like huge article about some of these, how some of our nutritional stuff relates to our energetic stuff. And of course, the basics of healthy living, really. But in this case, you really want to help your gut to in some cases, flush out some of the excess stuff that you've been absorbing. Remember, emotions that unprocessed emotions are stored in your belly area, in your second chakra area, and this can still be remnants, from the holidays. But you got to go into support of that. All right, so go lighter on things. Probably, like other than that, on a physical level, foot baths are still cool, and doing light exercise. Look at my chakra chart, what I recommend for physical exercises for first and second chakra, because this is mostly what you're dealing with here this coming week. Okay. Some other things is that, and this is physical and emotional together, and that would be, to go into exercises such as yoga, for instance, that, encourage you to breathe, that encourage you to connect with your body and really feel sort of, what you need. Emotionally, we've just had one of those recordings not too long ago, right? Remember with Shoshana, the counselor, like how to deal with grief and so forth. And I think it was day 6 or day 4. I don't know. You've got to look this up. It's grief is not a negative thing. It only turns into a negative thing if we cannot contextualize sort of what is coming up. Okay, so if you go into grief or depression, emotional pain, then try to reframe this as an opportunity to heal, as an opportunity to hit rock bottom. And I know this sounds kind of weird, but I talked about this last week too. Hitting rock bottom is something that kind of forces you to see truth, to move into truth. It does not yet provide you with solutions, but it can actually, from an energetic standpoint, do something really cool for you, and that is to at least get rid of the illusions and the unrealistic expectations. All right, so that's what I can recommend to you emotionally. There's of course also the accountability piece that I mentioned earlier. And, but you want to avoid that your critical inner voice turns back on, that the judgment and this negative self-talk. So you really got to be careful with, going into judging yourselves for the past. In fact, I would recommend you to not even go into these regrets too much and leave the past, behind you, and move into the present. This may not help you yet to create a new vision of the future, but it will make your energy much, much stronger so that it can actually tune into these higher vibratory energies that you want to align yourself to, so that eventually you can come up with better solutions for those, okay? And mentally, we talked about congruence here. That's a big one. So you can always sort of double check on yourself, like, do I truly feel this? Is this really true to me? But many of us have kind of forgotten how to do this, and we don't really have good reference feelings for what is true to us. Okay, so unless you train this, and meditation, of course, is a way to get there, but you do need a little bit of guidance, as to, like, what does it even feel like when I'm truly connected within? All right, but mentally, the main thing is here to ask yourself if, whatever the thought is that is coming up right now, whatever the attitude is, whatever the belief is that is coming up right now, check if that's even true. A lot of you guys believe that you are so and so, that you're very quick on labeling yourself. But from my point of view, that's just a place where you bought into your ego story. Not true. That's not who you really are. Good or bad, doesn't matter. On that level, uh, it's about congruence and not, how we judge what we find. It's about how congruent is this. And, spiritually, this leads then to a different set of questions, and that is, of course, something that we've been working on for quite a while now. What is it that I truly want, right? But many of you are also hitting sort of the wall here with, how do I want this? One of them, like the typical things that I heard this week, is issues with the job or with something like career related, and the question: do I even want to work for this company? Is this even integrous? And this is the spiritual component, where our higher vibratory alignment comes through, and where we have to ask ourselves: is this integrous for me? Because, and now you may understand this word a little better, energetic integrity, because every time you go into disharmony, every time you go into resistance, every time you go into these lower vibratory emotions and get stuck in your patterns, that's when your energy goes into this non-integrous state. And non-integrity, I mean, there's no word for this, I think, in English. It creates, fragmentation, creates schism energetically, and that's where, we end up having our attachments and our blocks. So if you ever wonder, why, despite all the, the metaphysical knowledge you have and all the intuitive understanding and the empathy and so forth, why it's so difficult for you, it's because there is a part of you that is not willing to face truth. And sometimes that's also rooted in our spiritual beliefs. That's why I talk so much about this, projected spiritualism and the superiority and all that. Guys, those are ego illusions. Those are this part of your ego story, part of your false self. You don't have to be a certain way to be spiritual. That's bullshit. You have to be what you are, and that's it. And the more real you become, the more true you become, the more spiritual you are. But it's a lot more practical than most people want to admit, because it's so much cooler, to wear a certain brand of yoga pants, or to, do this special kind of yoga, or to do this special kind of meditation or whatever. Those are all distraction mechanisms and coping mechanisms and ego bullshit stories. Okay? Sorry. But, when it's about congruence, you got to be ready to take on that challenge with yourself and call yourself out. So the energy barometer for this week is therefore on, super red. Let me bring this in here real quick. Because the intensity of that will suck. Okay? It'll not be easy for us, because we're going to have to deal with, these illusions, these stories that we have been telling ourselves. And that, if you think about it, your entire ego coping mechanisms are all around keeping that alive. So there's a reason why you weren't able to see this earlier, why you weren't able to feel truth, because that's a big part of your pattern. So the intensity here for this next week is most likely going to be a bit overwhelming for some of you. Here it is. And so I strongly recommend you that, you go into this place where you really connect with your heart, and where you really connect with your compassion, and say, okay, we're all in the same boat here. Okay. I wouldn't be talking about this, guys, if this wasn't a collective tendency, meaning this is not just you, it is, the whole collective is going through this. But, people with training and with awareness, they can get through this like quickly, and they can work on greater things. They can work on alignment and manifestation. But those who don't have the training, or who resist, energetic reality and energetic integrity, they run into massive resistance. And that's why the barometer for next week is on dark red, because most people around you will show highly irrational behavior. highly irrational behavior. And that will, of course, create pressure for you as well, which means that you will also be triggered into all these things. So that's why, I do these energy updates to give you a little bit of a heads up, because if you can anticipate that, even if it's just mentally, but I'm also hoping that you can feel the energy here that I'm trying to transport. Then you first of all, you know that you're not alone. Okay, that's a big one, because most of our energies go immediately into separation, and when we separate, from the outside world, we also separate within, and then it's practically impossible to feel your heart and to feel your love or your compassion, for that matter. It's also impossible to be in the present, which is why most people go into the past with their pain, and why they go into fear in conjunction with future. But both of these coping mechanisms avoid present. So in order to be in the present, in order to be here and now, and to to shift your energy, in order to create new manifestations, in order to thrive, in order to work for a more fulfilled life, you're gonna have to be able to identify that and then actively shift your energy into or out of the pain of the past or the fear of the future into the present, because it's all happening here in the now. And energetically, what this means, and for those of you who are very familiar with those kind of patterns, is that, you basically have to shift your energy from determination, which is third chakra, and that is something that we've all been conditioned to do, into devotion, which is fourth chakra in conjunction with your fifth, sixth, and seventh. It's your higher vibratory ability. So basically what I'm asking you to do is that you focus on, how you can eliminate, some of these illusions. Again, that would be the clearing part. And if you've listened here for a few weeks, then you know that clearing is only half the job, right? What is the other part? The other part is filling up this vacuum, okay? Filling up the vacuum of that existing pattern that you had in the past. Like, say you can take an addiction as example. When you take that away, there's a vacuum there. You've got to immediately fill this up with positive energies, with new, alignments, with a higher vibratory, with a higher sort of capacity, so that you can even hold your higher vibratory goals. And this is for those of you who are very sensitive, like myself, you may have already started to feel this. There is very, very strong energy coming in sixth and seventh chakra. And, if we can't differentiate that, then it will lead to nightmares and fantasizing and stuff like that. But if you have the training, and if you've been meditating for a while, and you have a good inner lexicon of sensations, then use this for cool visionary stuff. Okay, this week, as red as it is, if you know how to work this, okay, there's some cool stuff coming in. And physically, this may be a bit weird at first, because when so much energy is coming in, like next week, yes, it will make most people irrational. But what it can, if you have the container, if you have the capacity to hold that much energy, at first it will feel like your whole entire body is vibrating. And you'll go into these like really, really intense energetic places, where you feel like your body is lifting off. Do not be scared, okay? Do not buy into fear. This is your energy body expanding so that it can hold more of the light. Okay? Do you guys have any questions in regards to that? Holding. Okay, here's a question from Justin. For once, I've not been experiencing anger and fear, but okay, sorry, Justin, it's just hard for me to read this sometimes. Just the state of mind that I'm in, which is not really a mental state. I have a hard time sometimes reading people's sentences. I don't understand the sentence structure, but I think or what I'm feeling is Yes, heart meditation will help. So here at transCODES, for instance, our event calendar is always adjusted to those collective energies coming in. So we have a energy session come up on Friday night for those of you who want to join, called the Heart Clean, helping people to connect with the heart and clear out the stuff that is holding them back. Then on Saturday, we're going to be working on reconciling with masculine energies within, but also reconciling with masculinity. A beautiful, beautiful session. It's a workshop. It's an energy session where we do a live webinar right afterwards and directly reflect on all those energies. And these are all measures that can help us to go into this place of inner peace, really, of a more realistic and more real connection with ourselves. That then allows our energy to resonate higher and faster. Yes, the drifting off feeling is happening. That is something Andreas is commenting on here. I guess that is that falls into the category of what I just said. There's a lot of 6th and 7th chakra overlay. So again, here, irrationality can lead you to thinking that the world is against you and you've been under etheric attack. And to a degree, that is also the case. But if you have the capacity to work with this and to let this go through you, and to channel that, and you've got your ego in check, then it will feel a bit like you're drifting away physically. So you have to make sure that you ground yourselves sufficiently in between. And that goes back to the needs here, drinking enough water, moving your body, and paying attention to your foods, because the foods and also your blood sugar levels can have a lot to do with how you're able to process and hold energies. You can continue asking questions, guys. But first of all, I'm seeing that we have only like 1 or 2 likes here. Press the like button. Press the like button. This is the only sort of energy exchange that I have. So this is all I'm asking, from you guys here watching these energy updates. Press the like button. That's my payment. Okay, and the sharing, and the subscribing to the channel. I mean, I have like, if I look at the numbers, there's people between 1,000 and 2,000 people who watch these videos every week, but there's only like, I don't know, 400 or 500 subscriptions. Okay, so subscribe to my channel. Okay, yes, thank you. So before I move to the end here and into our crypto news section, I want to inform all of you guys that I have created a new Facebook group as well as a new YouTube channel. So soon I'm not going to do these the crypto news here within the energy updates, because it just makes it take too long. But I do want to show you here today what I'm working on. And you can give me comments on that, because I'm not sure if this will actually work out, because the crypto market is working so fast that weekly forecasts may not be good enough. I mean, most of the people that are really good at this, they do weekly, daily updates, so it may not work out. But the group that I've created here and that is working with me on Facebook, so anybody can join. This is a public group. And also the account is also going to be a website and everything. It's called Crypto Spiritual. Yes, I know it's a bit tacky, but I had to go with what kind of domain names are available and so forth. This is what it looks like. So you guys are all invited to join this Facebook group, in which we will discuss all these energetic aspects that play into the crypto market every day. There's also a Twitter account, and there will be a YouTube channel here where I do regular crypto updates. Okay, and within that, what I've started to do, I can show this to you here real quick, is I've started to create like a barometer that can apply to cryptos as well. And this looks like this. And if you look at some of these aspects that I brought into the barometer here, why this is a potentially tricky week for cryptocurrencies, is because of the irrationality, but also because of these aspects. And these are the same aspects that we just talked about in regards to collective energies and how this translates for us personally. So I want you to keep this in mind, that when I talk about cryptos, I'm literally reflecting collective energies into the crypto world. And the reason why I can do this is, for one, because I have, part of that technical understanding, also a passion for the technical stuff behind that. But also because I can see the connection. I know a lot about trading. I used to do day trading as a hobby, 10 years ago. No, 15 years ago, not very successfully, I may add. But the reason why was because I did it mentally. I learned how to do chart analysis and all that. And this can work really well. But as an energetically sensitive person, I ran into too much integrity issues, too much incongruence issues with some of the trade calls that I made. And so, I just wasn't interested anymore. And I focused only on the energy work with people. But for me, the crypto market now is somehow bringing all that back together. So the main thing here is to understand that, bringing our heart into the game does not mean bringing our irrationality or emotionality into the game. It means bringing our higher energetic sensitivity into the game. And yes, you are at the right place if you are interested in cryptos, because this is an unmanipulated market. There are attempts to manipulate it, and there are things that happen here on a weekly basis. Like just right now, this week we had lots of FUDs. We had some needed corrections here. Like for instance, CoinMarketCap took out the Korean prices for their median price evaluations because they were simply too high. They were driving the price too high, unrealistically, so unrealistic expectations, and they took them out. And then, of course, for a couple of days, all the courses went into red, went into the negative, because relative to the day before, right, they were now all much lower. So that then triggered, this wave of oh my God, FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Oh my God, they're all going down. Oh my God, Bitcoin is a bubble. It's going to burst, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, you see in this unmanipulated market where you have the, like grassroots people making up quite a big chunk of that market cap, selling off into fear. And if you look at the gauge here, the barometer, you'll find the first thing is buying into fear. And there's a bit of a word game that I'm playing there, because for this last hour, we've been talking about how not to buy into fear, right? How not to buy into, your ego stories and so forth. But that's exactly what's happening in the crypto market. So people buy into their ego stories, they buy into their fear, and they sell on fear. And this is my code word when I say buying into fear, is that's when you need to buy. Okay? That's when you need to buy. And then the next one here is grief over lost control. Same thing. We just talked about this in regards to ego, in regards to some of our unrealistic expectations, and some of these, these ego illusions that we have around what we can do or what we can accomplish in our life. And, our ego obviously thinks it's in control about that. Just like, and I've caught myself, like in that place, before Christmas, oh, this is only going to go up. There's so much buying pressure. Yeah, there's so much, it can only go up. Of course, that was not, like a couple days later, we had one of the Bitcoin corrections here that are leading to the uncertainty right now. And so we got to be careful here, when we go into this low depression, grief, really what this is all about is it's like the loss of control. That's what your fear is fueled by, okay? And in the crypto market, you can practice not to do that. Because if you go there, if you think you got this all in control and you know where the course is going, be assured The next correction is around the corner, and all it takes is like someone like Jimmy Dimon or whatever from JP Morgan saying Bitcoin is a fraud. Now, this was one of the cool things that happened this week, because he came actually forward and admitted that that was a big mistake. So that's cool. So the FUDs of the past, they really show us, how fast the crypto market can recover from these false news, or these people coming forward, like right now, they're making it look like South Korea, or China are going to shut down Bitcoin trading. This is the FUD of the last 24 hours, which is total bullshit. They're not. They're trying to regulate it. They're trying to come in with, a sort of less Wild West type of things, and that is needed. So there's a big need for that, and all year we're going to have these kind of news that telling us that there's going to be some new regulations coming out. But then again, this doesn't need to be a FUD. This doesn't need to cause fear, uncertainty, and doubt, because quite frankly, I mean, anybody who was thinking, as an example, taxes, play into the same category, that you won't have to pay taxes on your gains with cryptocurrencies. What kind of illusion is that? Okay, it's a capital gain, all right, and there is no, news. Oh my God, you're gonna have to tax your capital gains from cryptos. You better get out. No, that's irrationality. When you're in your center, you're like, oh, sure, of course, it's a capital gain. So you make money with money. The details of that, whether you're going to have to tax every transaction that you do, or whether you, only have to tax really the cashed out gains, such as, like when you, like with the 401k in the United States, when you actually get the money, I'd be prepared and keep my records for every trade, because theoretically, unless we have better application software that can handle that, and sort of calculate the tax aspect of it right away, keep all your records of all your trades, because theoretically, every single trade that you do, even an atomic swap, would count into this, in my understanding of taxation. You're shifting, one form of capital into another form of capital. So, but I wouldn't get too stressed out about this right now. By the end of the year, I'm sure we have lots of good software that will help us to feel a bit more confident with that. But those are all FUDs, those are all like duh messages, okay, that are turned into this irrational sort of, oh my God, we're all gonna die. That's exactly how this animalistic part of our nervous system reacts. Oh my God, I'm going to die. And that's why we have no sophisticated or higher vibrational solutions available when we go there, because it's our it's our limbic system, really, that reptilian part of our brain that is now dominating our options and reactions. Yeah, so, keep all your records. One of the things that, I've published my, the jona folio, my crypto folio for the year of 2018 in the last energy update. So if you're interested in my trades, obviously I'm not a financial advisor, so I'm not giving any trade calls or anything. But for the most part, that's like a hodl list, that's a list for people who just really want to get in and then stay there. And 2018 is the year for this. But there are also tons and tons of really cool new companies, new business ideas, and new ICOs coming out. And in the first Crypto Spiritual live YouTube, I'm going to be talking about some of those. However, unrealistic. I'm never going to be as good in this evaluation as some of the people that I get my information from, all right? And I'm not trying to be better or anything. So I'm just going to try to relay, maybe condense the information for you a little bit, and try to relay it so that you save a few hours of your research. But you always have to do your own due diligence, and do research. And as a crypto spiritual, you're also going to have to check in with your heart. So my recommendation is never make a trade that doesn't feel integrous to you, no matter how great the investment opportunity is. I've learned this the hard way. If I'm not congruent with this, not going to work. Yes, cool, Justin. Thank you for rephrasing this for me. So once you're feeling the opposite to fear and anger, you actually feel excitement and enthusiasm. Yes. And that is then sort of what creates the springboard. This is what I meant earlier with the ability to hold that higher vibratory energy. It's our capacity of light, and we have to really work on it. So one part is the clearing of the negative stuff, the clearing of the blocks, the disharmonies, the illusions, the ego stuff. And the other part is increasing our container, increasing our capacity. Yes, and very often when we hit rock bottom, when we get to that place, where we were forced to do congruence check and, know the tools how to not get stuck in fear or anger or pain, then out of that rock bottom comes the growth, comes the change, comes the positive shift. Yes. Yes, there's an alternative dimension that is showing up as an ICO, which is seems to be even cooler. But we're going to be talking about this in our crypto spiritual. For now, guys, you've been with me here for more than an hour, and I'm super grateful for your attention and for your love and for your great comments here. So I'm going to let you go now. Stay tuned for the written energy report. Sign up for my email list. This will also keep you up to date as far as the crypto spiritual is concerned. Because there's a lot of new, links, a lot of, new YouTube channel, Twitter, and so forth. And also, one of the things for you guys here in the crypto world, follow those people that you find integrous. Follow them on Twitter. Like people like, and I'm just saying a few names, Charlie Lee, for instance, the founder of Litecoin. Those are cool people to follow because you're at the pulse. You don't need to understand everything that they're saying. You just need to pick up on the energy that they're bringing in. Okay. And also, of course, follow me on Twitter. I tweet a lot more on Twitter than you can see here in the energy updates or in the written reports, also Facebook. Those are all places where we publish things. And Twitter, for instance, is a place where that allows us to do a quick type of thing. Many of you may know this. No, actually, many of you don't know this. We have a private crypto work group here at transCODES. That's only for the people who are in the Sacred Self-Healing community, but this overlaps with the Crypto Spiritual Facebook group. So yes, there is a lot more that can be transported, in the market like that when you're able to respond, on a more sort of day-to-day or hourly basis. For now, guys, I'm wishing you a wonderful week 3. Thank you for your attention. Hope to see you next week. Next Thursday, 2 p.m., same place. And please subscribe to the email list at transCODES so I can inform you about the first crypto spiritual energy update. Hope you liked it. Thank you very much, guys.